News!
Okay, we'll start with this. Turki Sheikh denies slowdown of funding for boxing events. Turkey has strongly denied reports that there will be a slowdown of spending on boxing shows, revealing that the reports are 100% not true, and that there will be many surprises announced in the coming calendar year, what the people at IFL described as fantastic news. I myself was skeptical. I didn't take the story at face value. I didn't believe it. I only entertained it for argument's sake. If Turkey were to leave the sport of boxing right now and took all that Saudi money with him, what would the state of the sport be if that happened? All the while questioning the legitimacy of the story, because it's one of those trust me bro kind of stories that some journo via his inside sources spoke to 11 people, none of which he can mention by name, who said that many of the Saudis' investments are in dire straits and the PIF fund is depleted.
Trust me, brah.
A story that Turkey is calling 100% false, and I will take it that that includes all elements of the story. So why would any member of the media manufacture a story about Turki Sheikh or publish one that hasn't been fact-checked? Well, I've noticed since Turkey's entry into the sport of boxing, there have been one or some members of the media that have attempted to go after him and the practices in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, what they've described as human rights issues, and these investments are little more than sports washing. Do you remember those stories from last year trying to put the kingdom in a negative light, and all they are doing now in the realm of entertainment, whether it's comedy, movies, or sports? Sports washing. There were some journalists I've already seen who were pushing that narrative that the kingdom of Saudi Arabia is attempting to change its image to Westerners, except that the kingdom itself and Turkey never denied that. They want to make it a more user-friendly experience and destination for tourists, particularly Westerners, which is why there's so much Western culture being imported. But as far as sports washing, you want to accuse the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia of human rights violations, and you can, but somebody can turn right around and say the same thing about your country and your government, like this one, like people do now when it comes to the whole Israel-Gaza thing, and how the United States might be complicit with what some describe as genocide. Free paradigm! It's Palestine. Free Palestine! Not to get political, but the point that I'm making is that these are perspectives, not universal truths, not objective facts, and the same things that people say about the kingdom, you could say about almost any country on the map. Any first world country can arguably be accused of some form of human rights violations, as one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. It's all about perspective. And so this perspective that all these investments the kingdom is making are tantamount to sports washing is one person's perspective on it. A journalist or journalists that have an axe to grind, an agenda. We've seen anti-Turki Sheikh propaganda pushed in the media, so maybe this whole story about the PIF fund is more of the same. The story, at its base, at its heart, is little more than just a rumor. It's a trust me bro kind of story, because you talked to 11 people and this is what they had to say, but you can't mention who any of them are, so their credibility and yours is questionable. But I immediately thought it ridiculous that anyone would suggest the Saudis of all people have run out of money.
Yeah, fucking right.
You know, most of the boxing fans and people in boxing have no concept of how much money these people have. It's not something they're gonna run out of anytime soon, anytime in your lifetime. By some chance the PIF fund is running dry, they can always recapitalize because they have the money to do it, but the investments they've been making and the scale, the amount of money they've been spending is indicative of a long-term investment. Investments as it pertains to boxing. When you compare what they've been spending on their other projects versus what they've been spending on boxing, boxing is a drop in the bucket compared to the other stuff. So I immediately thought the story, at its very best, was sensationalistic on purpose. Anti-Turkey propaganda, anti-Saudi propaganda, that some don't have the common sense to question. Turkey denies these reports and, put simply, I believe him. I believe him. Said that many surprises will be announced in 2026. Future plans for the sport. What is it that they intend to do that they haven't already done? What can the future hold? There is a feeling that because of the super fights that they have already made in a timely fashion in roughly 2 years, the well is running dry in boxing. Running dry in terms of super fights. There just aren't that many, and the rate at which they were putting these major fights together, they don't normally happen that fast. So the fact that they did has left a void. What major bouts can they put together in 2026, especially since they've rolled out this DAZN Ultimate tier that's supposed to feature 12 plus pay-per-views annually? Are there even 12 plus pay-per-view fights in the sport right now? It's very hard to say. The most that I can think of is they'll try to stack the cards. Even if there isn't a major individual fight out there, if you stack the cards, the card as a package is major, and you can try to sell the card in and of itself as a pay-per-view. That might be what they have in mind. Unification matches at featherweight, super feather, maybe, super lightweight, at junior middle, wherever there is division, wherever there are several champions, they can try to do that. Bring forward consolidation. Still skeptical as to how many of these fights they can put together because 12 pay-per-views is a lot, let alone 12 plus. A minimum of 4 fights per pay-per-view multiplied by 12? It's 48 fights. Can you think of 48 great fights to put on a pay-per-view? Are there 48 fights? Great ones to make in the sport of boxing right now? We'll see what the future holds and what announcements Turkey makes in the coming calendar year. Over to the men's super lightweight division, where Subriel Matias stands firm and proclaims innocence over failed drug tests. Subriel believes that his faith in the man above will work in his favor. The ring's number 2 ranked junior welterweight turned in an adverse analytical finding for Osterin stemming from his November 9th VADA drug test distributed by the New York State Athletic Commission, except that the amount found in his system was below the allowed threshold of 0.1 nanograms per milliliter. Matias's levels came in at 0.085. By that reckoning, Subriel Matias didn't actually break any rules, and at least in the past, in these situations, it's the commission that has the teeth. In this instance, the New York State Athletic Commission. Upon hearing the news, Matias took to his social media to proclaim his innocence. The day I try to cheat, I become nothing in my life. Matias said on his Instagram account, "God is faithful. Blessings." What do you mean the commission's the one with the teeth? They're the ones that issue out the banments, the suspensions, not the alphabet organizations or the anti-doping agencies. They're not the one that can revoke a boxer's boxing license. They're not the ones that can issue one out. That's the commission. In this country, the commissions, since there is more than one, every state in the union has their own commission. The Nevada State Athletic Commission, the New York State Athletic Commission, the California Commission, so on and so forth. You know how it goes. So when a boxer is suspended from activity, that doesn't fall on VADA. All VADA can do is report the findings. That doesn't fall on the World Boxing Council, since the World Boxing Council doesn't issue out boxing licenses. That falls on the commission in that state. And much of what happens after a fighter tests positive for a banned substance is all based on what the local commission decides to do. Usually, they suspend the fighter, but in this instance, Subriel didn't actually break any rules. What they found in his system was below the legal threshold, so this is much ado about nothing, at least on paper. The commissions usually set the tone, so if the commission is not going to issue out a suspension, everybody else falls in line with what they decide, and thus Subriel might not be stripped of his WBC title. I don't see why he would. I remember when Alicia Baumgartner tested positive for a banned substance, the Michigan Unarmed Combat Commission, for whatever reason, did not issue out a suspension, and as a result, she wasn't stripped of any of her titles. So that might be the case here. I suspect that Subriel has since been tested since this news broke, and provided that his urinalysis comes back clean, or at least below the legal threshold, he should be in the clear, and the contest should, theoretically, be allowed to go on. If it is, I stand by my initial prediction. I think that Subriel beats Dalton Smith. This is a big step up for Dalton Smith, who's a solid boxer. I liked what I've seen from him, but he ain't been in there with nobody like this. Nobody like Subriel, who With every punch that gets in, he takes something out of you. And he throws so many punches in a round that something is bound to get in. He's a simple boxer, not many bells and whistles, a pressure guy, but a very dangerous one. See, what you have to ask yourself is, are Subriel's holes, are his flaws so great that Dalton Smith might exploit them and knock him out? Because one thing we've noticed about Subriel, even when he's getting lumped up, even when he's getting hit, he's got a chin. How long is it going to hold up? What do you believe? Do you believe that Dalton Smith will stop him, or is it likelier than not that Subriel stops Dalton? And I'm going with Subriel. I think it's likelier than not that Subriel stops Dalton. Now this fortuitous news for Subriel doesn't address what other difficulties the contest is facing, that the tickets aren't moving. Supposed to go down in the tri-state area at the Barclays Center. Everybody from New York knows there's a high concentration of Puerto Ricans in New York, but they don't seem to be showing up for this one. I don't want to speak too soon. They still have a month, a little over a month, to promote the fight and get those tickets out as best as they can, but this show not being promoted by a major promoter with a major platform behind them, it's questionable how well they can raise awareness for this fight and subsequently sell it, because Subriel, God bless him, he's not a big draw yet. And who the hell else is supposed to be boxing on the undercard for this show? You know that they're billing it as a pay-per-view to me and you. If you want to see it, you have to pay. My reservations about a small, local, Puerto Rico-based outfit coming up with $1.9 million to win the rights for this fight with no major network behind them. Where does a small local outfit find that kind of money to then gamble it on the success of this show? Where indeed. So even if the contest is allowed to go on, it still has built-in problems that have to be addressed. But if the fight is allowed to go on, I have Subriel winning it, and winning it by way of knockout. Finally, in men's heavyweight news, Anthony Joshua says Jake Paul will get exposed, stopped, and schooled in boxing, even if the pleasantly surprised Anthony Joshua perceived Jake as a delightful holiday stocking stuffer who came paired with a handsome payday. He wouldn't tell you. Joshua is exuding confidence ahead of his clash with Jake Paul on December 19th at the Kaseya Center in Miami on Netflix. The former two-time unified heavyweight champion took the podium recently for a presser, proclaimed Paul will be crushed like the outmatched opponent he's considered to be, as he embarks on a path to revive his career once more. I'm gonna break his face, said Joshua. I'm gonna break his body up. I'm gonna stomp all over him. That's my fighter's mentality. I know what it is in my heart. I know what it is in my mind. I'm here to compete and prove to myself that I am the better fighter. I'm going to come forward, impose myself, land heavy punches, and expose him to certain tricks in boxing that he may not have seen yet. I am going to bring him to another school of boxing that I don't think he's been exposed to yet. I need to cut him up. I need to break him up. And I need to hurt him. I need to knock him out. There is nothing more than that. Emphasis on need. Every moment that passes, every round that ends and begins is an affront to Anthony Joshua's boxing career and boxing ability if Jake Paul is able to make it into deep waters. That Anthony Joshua needs to hurt this guy and beat him up real bad, real fast, is an understatement. AJ can't afford to waste too much time on Jake. The more he lasts, the more questions Joshua will have to answer afterwards. Joshua, who's been installed as over a minus 1,000 betting favorite by most sportsbooks, is approaching the 8-round fight with a modicum of respect towards Paul, as he should, because Jake's got to be out of his mind to take this fight.
Yeah, he's out of it all right.
On paper, there is nothing to suggest that Jake is ready for this fight. Puncher's chance, don't even think about it. Jake's not that big a puncher, which was evident in his last fight with Julio Cesar Chavez, that if this guy packed a big enough punch to knock out an AJ, he should have knocked out Chavez. He should have knocked out Tommy Fury, or a 56-year-old Mike Tyson. I'm not above the challenge. I have to work hard with my head down and get the job done. You can't underestimate anyone, said AJ. I see talent, focus, he puts in the work, has a good team, nothing negative. That's why he's here now. He's here to do his job. I can't sit there and address all of the things that Jake doesn't do well. Anyone out there in the world that works harder than the next person deserves to be a frontrunner, and he's a frontrunner. In the boxing game right now, I take it seriously. He has a conqueror's mentality. His mentality is solid. It's better than Tyson Fury's. Jake's the one sitting here, so I take him seriously in preparation and give him the respect that he deserves. Joshua is expected to get past Paul, fight again in February, and look like his old self in both contests to lure Tyson Fury out of retirement for a fall showdown. I'm going to be a tough man to break down because I have been building myself over the last year. I haven't been sitting back. I've been working, said Joshua. I know what I can do, and I can't wait to show it. I'm not going to crumble. I'm solid. I've been through wars, and I am still standing super strong because I have the hunger and desire. May seem somewhat whimsical for Anthony Joshua to talk about a novice like Jake Paul in this regard, but boxing is a sport, a profession, where you can't afford to be asleep at the wheel at any moment. You can't give the other guy anything to capitalize on. That if this guy don't belong in the same ring with you, it's not up to somebody else to show it. It's up to you. And that takes desire. That takes wanting to be there, wanting to do it. It's a great opportunity for me to announce myself as a dominant figure once again. I want to be up just as much as people want to see me down. I'm hungry, devoted, and dedicated to chasing what I need to be. I am going there for a job. I want to really hurt him in the ring. I have to break his delusion and bring him down to reality check in the ring. Anthony mentions people wanting to see him down, and I think we know
Of a few.
who those people are, the ones helping Jake. The sparring partners for this contest were announced. At least 3 guys. You see, Jared Anderson, Frankie Sanchez, and Lawrence Okoli, who volunteered for that assignment, volunteered to be in the opposite corner of Anthony Joshua. Not for the sanctity and image of boxing, not for the self-respect of the sport. It doesn't matter to these guys. Not for their fellow boxer, their contemporary, what is intended to be their compatriot. Not for... It doesn't matter. Not for Lawrence Okoli's countryman and fellow Nigerian. They share lineage. It doesn't matter. When Anthony Joshua says that there are people out there who want to see him down as much as he wants to see himself on the up and up, he's absolutely right. And these guys comprise those people, just a small fraction of them. But even seeing Jared and Frankie and Lawrence there with Jake, conspiring against AJ, I don't really think that's gonna help. Jake looks a small guy, a real small fry, next to those heavyweights, and Anthony Joshua's a bigger heavyweight than them. All I see in that picture are a lot of envious guys. And one deluded guy who's about to get a concussion. Though credit to his moxie, because Jake Paul is finally behaving like a prize fighter for once. That's what prize fighters do. Get out there and gamble their health for big prizes. And that's what he's doing with this fight more than any other before it. He doesn't need to win to prove that he's a real prize fighter. He's already done that by accepting it. So on the predication that this is a real fight, and it looks like it is, well, he's in real trouble. Real deep shit, and I think he's gonna find that out on the night.